Welcome to Australia, the largest island, the smallest continent, one of the driest places on earth. We're in Perth. 3 hours drive south of here is a place called Margaret River. We're going to visit some friends of mine and learn a little bit about wine.
I want you to get together. I want you to get together. I want you to get together.
I'm heading to what was cattle country until the late 1960s, when it was discovered the soil and the climate was similar to those in Bordeaux. Today the wines in Margaret River are stunning, and they produce some of the best Sauvignon Blanc, Cabernets and Merlot in all of Australia. I'm going to see Matt and Jackie Jarvis, who have a 9-hectare vineyard. That's around 25 acres, which is modest by Australian standards. We're about 750 metres above sea level. It rains here between 800 and 1200 millimetres a year. The weather patterns that come in from the Antarctic make this the cleanest environment in the world. You combine that with this beautiful free-draining soil, it makes the best place to grow grapes for making wine. Margaret River. So what varieties have you got on the property?
Merlot, we've got some Cabernet Sauvignon, Shiraz, Chardonnay, and a very special Cabernet Franc.
Your grandfather used to grow table grapes or eating grapes, didn't he?
He did in the Swan Valley.
So what's the difference between these grapes, say, and eating grapes?
Where do you start? They're both grown differently.
Yeah?
Very differently. These are grown for sweetness and skin flavour. The table grape's grown for presentation and sugar levels and that sort of thing.
So you can make wine out of table grapes?
Table grapes have a much higher sugar content, so it'd be a fairly potent wine. And I think it'd be fairly hot. I don't think many people would like it.
And does it affect, so the flavour's less though, is it? Or is it
Yes,
different?
less flavour, very hot wine.
Oh, okay.
Because they have a lot of pulp and not much skin. And the skin of the grape is where the flavour comes from.
Oh, okay. And tell me, with these, do you irrigate? Do they irrigate with table grapes as well as these grapes?
Yes. Whereas with table grapes, they irrigate up until they harvest. Whereas with wine grapes, we only irrigate when we have to, and we actually cut off the irrigation towards harvest time to let the vine work and put more concentration into the fruit. Whereas they're trying to make bigger fruit.
Oh, okay. And with picking by hand, why don't you just get a harvester in?
Oh, this is a lot more fun.
Really?
No, well, these are fruit, grapes are fruit, and if a harvester comes in, it can damage the fruit, just like damaging an apple. So this way we get the fruit to the winery in the best condition it can be, and that's the reason why we do it.
So high quality fruit, high quality wine. Margaret River really is an extraordinary place. It's a very close-knit community with most of its income coming from cattle and of course wine. The great thing is if you're lucky enough to know the restaurateur, you can enjoy a great steak and a bottle of your own wine from the list. You just won't get away with bouncing a check. I've heard about this guy Anthony Quinlan, so I thought I'd pay him a visit. A qualified geologist and champion surfer, Anthony came down to Margaret River for a 2-week surfing holiday, and 8 years later he still hasn't gone home. He's now the proud owner of an organic vineyard, his passion. So Anthony, what's the story with organics? What actually is it?
In a one-liner, I suppose it's just using, in a vineyard situation, growing them without any inorganic chemicals. Fertilisers, herbicides, pesticides, fungicides. On this patch here we did a whole season of green manuring.
So why did you go organic?
Been involved in the viticulture industry for a few years, and I never thought we were going to have a vineyard, but my brother and I, he's been involved in the industry for 5 or 6 years as well, thought we could do something special on a small scale.
Oh, on a small, so how big are you?
1 acre. It's exactly 1 acre.
1 acre.
Yeah.
It's tiny.
Yeah, well, I mean, still, it's got the potential to produce 2,000 to 3,000 bottles.
Yeah, 2,000 to 3,000 bottles. Yeah,
That's what, 150, 200 cases, something
that's
like
okay. And we drove in, and there's an Irish cross on the driveway. What's
Yeah.
the story with that?
That was my father's doing.
Yeah.
Boris O'Kane's the ancestral village from where the Quinlans came from,
Okay.
which is south of Tipperary, as far as I understand.
You haven't been?
No.
Oh, you got to
Love
go.
to.
You've got to go. That's
So
cool.
that we'll be using that on the label, and
I was going on the label as well.
I think so. Yeah.
What, the Celtic cross?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We haven't got that far yet, but
And how far will you be away before you get?
well, next growing season we'll harvest hopefully half a tonne of fruit to play.
So these guys are 2 years old.
Yep.
So you probably have one next year, and then
Yep.
it'll be what, another 2 or 3 years before you get some good stuff.
Get some good stuff, yeah. But that's what I'm really interested in. I mean, that what you've just said is having to wait a few extra years before the vines balance themselves out is pretty much based on a conventional system.
Yeah.
So I'm really just keen to see if by using a biological system you can actually get those flavours quicker.
We're going surfing. So
Good
you're a
luck.
surf champion.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I don't surf as much as I'd like to.
Yeah.
You move down to Margaret River thinking you'll be surfing every day, and
Yeah.
it doesn't happen.
There's one more reason why people come to Margaret River.
Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Time grabs you by the wrist, directs you where to go. So make the best of this test and don't ask why. It's not a question but a lesson learned in time.
After a hard day surfing, this is the ultimate wind down.
That's right. I hope you had the time of your life. So take the photographs and still frames in your mind, hanging on a shelf in good health and good time. Tattoos of memories and dead skin on trial. For what it's worth, it was worth all the while. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.
The Edwards are one of those Australian families with an extraordinary story to tell, and they have something equally extraordinary in their barn. Brian Edwards is the son of a fighter pilot who was shot down in World War II. After immigrating to Australia, Brian trained and practiced as a physiotherapist at top level for many years. Today, Brian and his sons are in a different line of work. They run a vineyard that produces gold medal winning wines. Why do you have tiger moth in your barn?
Well, the tiger moth is actually Dad's little toy, I suppose you could say. He's been interested in vintage aircraft basically ever since we were kids. He actually flew Matilda from England to Australia for charity back in 1990.
And whereabouts did he actually fly from?
Flew obviously through across to France, across the Channel into France, and then through Europe, through the Middle East, down through parts of Asia, then into Indonesia and down across the top of Australia, and then down the coast of Australia. So it took him 6 weeks, and a lot of things happened along the way, which is which were very interesting. But
Okay, and how did Matilda actually get onto this property?
well, this property was purchased by Dad in 1989. The property was only going to be a hobby farm for Dad, a few vines. Originally, the property was bought because we could fit an airstrip along the back of the property, 800 metres, which was very important. The 6 acres of Semillon, which were planted in 1993, have steadily grown to 62 acres. I've always had a huge interest in wine, and having this property and growing has really enabled me, been a facility for me to pursue my interest in wine. And so I went and did the studies to become a winemaker, and I've absolutely love it, and wouldn't change it for the world now.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put this away before your dad kills us. At the end of every vintage, when every grape has been picked, there's only one thing left to do. Have a harvest party. I've really enjoyed my time in Western Australia. The people I've met are warm, welcoming, and not at all your stereotypical Aussie we're led to think.
That might be to her in the voice that makes a pulse rush. Yeah, I can tell. Ritmo si, nena ritmo si. I watch you dance, man. You know you gotta be crazy.
I'm feeling a bit apprehensive because tomorrow we fly 3 hours east of here to Adelaide in South Australia and heading into the big league. As far as wine producing goes, this is the Premiership. I'm in Adelaide, the capital of South Australia. There's some absolutely stunning wines 1 hour's drive north of here in the Barossa Valley. We're a long way from Bordeaux, but that's where Martin Rawlinson has come from after living there for the past 5 years. He's bought himself 60 acres of prime Riesling vines in the Eden Valley and another 60 acres in the Barossa. So it's 7 o'clock in the morning. It's a bit early, isn't it?
Well, it's about the normal time we start.
Yeah.
Because it's better if you pick the grapes in the cool, and these will be delivered about lunchtime into the winery.
So why cool though?
Oh, because it keeps the grapes in better condition. And if you machine harvesting grapes, it's far better to do it at night than it is during the daytime. But hand picking, obviously, we do it in the daytime, but tend to start pretty early and generally get finished sort of lunchtime or a little bit later for delivery later on in the day. Normally we'd have a team of about 10 to a dozen people, and we'll work through and take off about 6 tonnes of grapes. This is Grenache. It's actually very old Grenache. These vines were actually planted back in the late 1960s.
Yeah, it's all the thickness of the trunks are just huge.
Yeah. Grapevines like this will last 100 years plus, but one of the is the degree of rareness of old vines these days, because a lot of vines historically have been pulled out and replanted, but these give a very good quality grape.
I ain't happy, I'm feeling glad I got sunshine in a bag. I'm useless, but not for long, the future is coming on. I ain't happy, I'm feeling glad I got sunshine in a bag. I'm useless, but not for long, the future is coming on, it's coming on, it's coming on.
Don, you're a viticulturist.
Oh, just a grape grower.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What does that actually mean, being a viticulturist?
Viticulturist is somebody who's trained in the job and got qualifications and all the rest
To do what?
to do what I'm doing.
Just pick grapes?
I just open up the paperwork.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Ah, come on, what do you really do?
Oh, well, you look after the vines, you plant them, you grow them, you fertilise them, you water them, you prune them, you do everything.
So your job is to get the grapes to the best condition they can.
Yes, that's about it.
That's
Yeah.
that simple, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, and how long have you been looking after this property?
About 38 years.
38 years.